Millions of people worldwide are impacted by poverty, a complex and widespread societal issue that affects communities and individuals alike. Today, we are going to explore the intricate system of how these factors that lead to poverty and look at how it is related to different aspects of the economic environment. Poverty takes many forms and causes great suffering for those who fall into its grasp. These include glaring inequality, conflict, the epidemic of hunger and malnutrition, poor healthcare systems, the impending threat of climate change, and the denial of educational opportunities. Through a closer look at these elements, this study seeks to shed light on the complex nature of poverty and clarify its extensive consequences. Differences in rights and resources between distinct groups within a society are the foundation for the idea of inequality. It may take different forms and is reinforced along the lines of identification such as gender, skills, age, health, and social position. This marginalization restricts people's prospects and reinforces the poverty cycle, especially when combined with other factors like discrimination based on gender. For example, women confront major obstacles to improving their conditions when they are denied rights related to their economic empowerment and health. Under such circumstances, the problem goes beyond a simple comparison of material belongings. It emphasizes the basic insufficiency of those who are less fortunate, emphasizing the pressing need for structural adjustment. Furthermore, poverty is worsened by the vicious cycle that results in the combination of inequality and invulnerability. For instance, a widow who must provide for her family is in great danger, particularly if she lives in a region where the effects of climate change are likely to be seen. Environmental factors further reduce that little that she has available, making it harder for her to overcome poverty. Unfortunately, this situation is common in many areas, supporting inequality in society and deeply implanting poverty in local populations. To effectively combat inequality, an extensive plan that puts the needs of every person in the community first and stresses the equality of resources as well as the equality of results is necessary. Conflict has changed over the last several decades, with both large-scale, long-term conflicts and localized violence causing damage to communities all over the world. Conflict is undoubtedly one of the main dangers leading to poverty. A clear illustration of how quickly a conflict can demolish a once thriving economy, relocating millions of people and ruining infrastructure, is the ongoing civil war in Syria. These disputes have serious consequences. In only 10 years, the percentage of people living in poverty has increased from a small minority to an alarming majority. But threats don't only come from high-profile, prolonged conflicts. Growing number of localized violent crimes are also harm already vulnerable populations, frequently going unreported by the media. These kind of emergencies leave families in a state of constant uncertainty, making it difficult to make plans for the future that would provide access to school, support agricultural businesses, or maintain family livelihoods. The situation of individuals impacted by conflicts worsen with time, showing the urgent need for the united efforts to address the underlying causes and lessen the terrible effects of violence on communities living in poverty. Hunger and malnutrition, which are frequently seen as effects of poverty, also have a major role in the persistence of poverty. Not only does a lack of food physically weaken people, but it also makes it more difficult for them to work and support themselves. Furthermore, immune systems are weakened by starvation, making people more susceptible to disease and decreasing their ability to do productive tasks. The economic effects of stunting are severe in nations with a high incidence of stunting, such as Ethiopia, where the GDP losses can exceed 16%. The vicious cycle of poverty and hunger grows worse for children whose formative years have been significantly impacted on their long-term health and their well-being. Malnutrition can have a lasting impact on an individual's life. Adults who were stunted as children can earn far less than those who are not. Therefore, addressing hunger and malnutrition is crucial for promoting sustainable economic growth and ending the poverty cycle. A tragic cycle of vulnerability has been created when great poverty and poor health coexist. Diseases that are easily curable and avoidable, such as respiratory infections, diarrhea, malaria, pose serious risks in these locations, particularly to young children whose immune systems are still developing. The problem is made worse by limited access to health care, which forces families to deal with paying for medication and traveling great distances to clinics. reducing their already limited resources and pushing them into poverty. Maternal health is an important but sometimes neglected aspect of healthcare, especially for women in patriarchal settings. Obstacles like requiring consent from a man to seek medical attention can be fatal, especially when a woman is pregnant or giving birth. Adolescent girls face even more prejudice and inequality, particularly if they become pregnant before getting married. This makes it harder for them to have access to quality treatment, which feeds a cycle of poverty and ill health for future generations. Breaking the cycle of poverty and advancing the well-being of individuals and communities requires addressing these systematic inequalities and guaranteeing universal access to high-quality healthcare. In addition to intensifying other issues like hunger, violence, inequality, and a lack of education, climate change acts as an intricate and associated throttle for poverty. The poorest people on the planet are most severely impacted by the negative effects of climate change, since a large portion of them depend on agriculture or other natural resource-based livelihoods. Nations like Malawi, whose agriculture accounts for around 80% of the population, are particularly vulnerable to the negative consequences of climate change. These populations frequently live in instability, with little protection against the shocks of unpredictable weather or natural disasters. Massive droughts brought on by El Niño induced occurrences can destroy crops, depriving millions of people of food and driving them away into poverty. Furthermore, the aftermath of catastrophes caused by climate change delays the process of recovery, continuing the cycles of vulnerability and poverty. Given that climate change is causing an increase in the severity and frequency of these occurrences, immediate action is needed in order to prevent poverty. This cycle that climate change promotes is only capable of being solved by broad efforts that encourage sustainable livelihoods, enhanced adaptability, and decrease climate-related risks. Although not all uneducated people live in severe poverty, there is a strong link between extreme poverty and poor education levels. Lack of access to high-quality education keeps many adults in extreme poverty where they are and restricts their ability to move up in society. Because the children of impoverished people are typically denied access to school, poverty across generations is frequently repeated. Globally, educational achievement is limited by several factors, including cultural prejudices against girls' education and financial limitations that limit access to textbooks and uniforms. Nonetheless, education is still regarded by many as a strong equalizer that may open doors to jobs and other necessities that help families not only survive but succeed. According to UNESCO, education-based development of basic reading abilities might help elevate 171 million people out of severe poverty. Therefore, even though investing in education has the potential to end the cycle of poverty and promote long-term prosperity, poverty nevertheless poses serious danger to education. By removing obstacles to education and ensuring that everyone has fair access to high-quality education, communities can take advantage of that potential for change in education to fight poverty and improve advancement in society. To sum up, poverty's complexities are closely related to a range of economic variables, all of which reinforce one another in a vicious cycle of exclusion and suffering. Poverty takes many forms, from glaring inequality and ongoing conflicts to the scourge of hunger and malnutrition, weak healthcare systems, the impending threat of climate change, and a lack of educational opportunities. Poverty affects people and communities all over the world and causes great hardships. Integrative strategies that address poverty's negative consequences on society as well as its causes are needed to solve these connected issues. We can work toward a future where millions of people worldwide will no longer live in poverty by supporting structural change, encouraging fair access to opportunities and resources, and building resilience and empowerment among marginalized populations. We can only fully end the cycle of poverty and create a more inclusive and sustainable society for all through collective action motivated by empathy, community, and a commitment to justice.